Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to begin our afternoon session, and we have a great lineup this afternoon. We have a session on transportation this afternoon. Also, our global P outlook is going to be later in the afternoon, as well as our General Assembly, our general annual meeting of all the membership for the Global Pulse Confederation. But we're going to start the afternoon with taking a look at the global Desi Chickpea outlook.
Okay, perfect.
And we have a distinguished panel with us today who's going to give us their comments and expertise on what's happening in the Desi Chickpea market. We have Peter Wilson from Australia who's going to join us on the stage here. Bulbula Tuli from Ethiopia. Sham Nasaria from Myanmar. And Bilal from Pakistan are going to join us on the stage. And this is going to be moderated by Chandra Shekhar, who is a global agribusiness and a commodity sector specialist based out of India. So I'd like to call the entire panel up and give them a big round of applause. And Chandra Shekhar is your moderator for this panel.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Is this on? Yeah, it is. Such a delight for me to be here once again sharing this platform. I guess the fact that I am invited year after year means that I'm able to contribute a little bit to the knowledge and awareness about the market and the market dynamics. Thank you very much. And Tim, thanks for your kind words. Over the next 15 or 20 minutes, I'm going to share with you a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. I'll share my thoughts on the global chickpea market, specifically production. And I'm going to focus more on India because India is a mover and shaker of the market, accounting for 90% of production and consumption. So here goes the first slide. Can I have the remote? Was it here? Thank you. All right. The first one, I think I want to discuss the context. And what is the context? I call this the VUCA world. This world today we are living in, businesses that live in today are facing what are called VUCA conditions. What is VUCA? Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. This is what businesses across the world are facing, governments across the world are facing, central banks across the world are facing, policy makers across the world are facing. VUCA conditions. And what are those 4 or 5 big ticket issues that the world is facing? The first one is the currency. The dollar is getting stronger and stronger. Those of you who were there in Cape Town in 2014 and also in Las Vegas in 2015 will know how robustly the dollar has gained strength over the whole of 2015. Although in the last few weeks it's lost that momentum, it's weakened slightly. It's about 1.12 to the euro. The highest level was 1.08 to the euro, probably a couple of months ago. Yet the dollar is substantially stronger than it was 2 years ago. In Cape Town, I recall I made a presentation. That time the dollar was 1.38 to the euro. And today it's 1.12. It's grown substantially stronger. And obviously, a strong dollar impacts commodity markets and commodity prices. It actually depresses the price of commodities that are designated in dollars, and it actually caps the upside risks to commodity prices. Relatively low crude oil prices over the last 15 months or so. Crude oil prices have a very strong and positive and direct relationship with cost of production of agriculture commodities. Through, obviously, the synthetic fertilizer route, through the reduction in cost of production of mechanized agriculture and processing of agriculture commodities and of course reduction in the transport cost. So crude oil prices also have had an impact on agriculture commodity prices, including of course pulses. There is a monetary policy divergence amongst various central banks which all of us need to understand. Until about 2014, the US reduced interest rates, brought it to near zero, printed billions of dollars, and you had the quantitative easing, which ended in December 2014. At that time, while the US Fed reduced interest rates in emerging markets like China and India were hiked by the central banks. Now we have a situation where the quantitative easing has come to an end. Tapering came to an end in December 2014. In 2015, the US started to raise the interest rates, and there is a strong possibility there will be further increases in the US rates, one most likely in June. That's my guess, my expectation, and one more probably towards the end of the year. While the US is now seeking to raise interest rates, the emerging markets like India are actually now reducing interest rates because of very benign inflation conditions. And therefore, there is a divergence in the policy stance, in the monetary policy stance of various countries. Look at Europe, look at Japan, negative interest rate. Did anyone think until a year ago that the world will face, some countries will have negative interest rates? Yes, it's a reality now. I think we are facing negative interest rate. Therefore, the monetary policy stance of various central banks is diverging, whether it's the US or emerging markets or Europe and Japan on the other hand. There are weather divergences again. South Asia faced El Nino conditions in 2014 and 2015, as a result of which South Asian agriculture production in general and pulses production in particular declined to alarmingly low levels. And while South Asia faced El Nino-driven dry conditions, North America faced excellent spring weather, and obviously they have had a huge rebound in agriculture production. And therefore, we have had 2 years of relatively soft agriculture commodity prices, be it wheat, be it corn, be it soybean, vegetable oils, and oil seeds, etc. The question therefore is this situation going to change? And where are the changes going to come from? I'll share with you in a moment. Okay, these are my numbers. I've spoken to a large number of people on this global Desi chickpea numbers. In the earlier session before lunch, we had Kabuli chickpea number. These are the global Desi chickpea numbers that I have been able to put together. There could be, we have also origin experts. We have Peter Wilson from Australia, we have Bilal from Pakistan, and we have Bulbul Atule from Ethiopia. Myanmar is represented by Sham. Our expert panelists will of course share their thoughts about these numbers, and if there are any changes in these numbers, any variations, they will even go into reasons why they are saying what they are saying. In my own opinion, after I compiled this a couple of days ago, this table, I've had a chat with a number of my friends from Pakistan, and they all believe that Pakistan's crop may not be 600,000 tons. It could be much less. It could possibly be closer to 400,000 tons, but I'm sure Bilal is going to speak about it. And Australian number is something I'm quite upbeat about Australia's production. But again, I'm sure Peter will have his own view. There is a possibility that this number, 1.2 million tons, probably is overstated by 10%, and the reality could be closer to 1 million tons or 1.1 million tons. But let's wait and see what Peter has to say. So these are the numbers finally for 2016 and 2017. I'm expecting there is no substantial increase in chickpea production. There's only a marginal increase in chickpea production. India suffered unseasonal rains in March, as a result of which we lost at least 1 million tons of production of chickpeas, if not more. And therefore, my number is close to 6.7 million tons of Desi chickpea in India. If you permit me to go to the next slide, I just want to explain what these numbers actually mean. India's share of the world output is between 75 and 80%. And as I said earlier, India did face weather issues in the month of March after we had the Jaipur Convention conclave, and obviously there was a reduction in the crop size. Even the Government of India admitted to a reduction in the crop size when they issued an estimate by mid-May. But I believe the weather risk is now completely passed, and therefore we need to accept those numbers, which came out by the middle of May. Australian harvest, in my opinion, is set to rebound. Based on, again, my discussions with my friends in Australia, there is reason to believe there's going to be a huge rebound in acreage and rebound in production, subject, of course, to normal weather, and Australia could harvest anything in excess of 1 million tons of chickpea. And this is actually as a response to, it's a supply response to prices. From last year, Australian exports have rebounded very robustly. Australian growers received wonderful prices, very nearly unheard of prices, and therefore they are responding with a huge acreage and huge supplies. Ethiopia, I've been tracking the numbers quite regularly. I think they are very gradually emerging as a force to reckon with, and I'm sure Bulbula Tule will speak more about it. Others, we have Tanzania, about 45 to 50,000 tons. Myanmar, I'm sure Sham will take us through those numbers. The next one, okay. Now, my forecast for 2017 crop, because 2016 India has already harvested, we need to look at 2017 crop, which will be planted in November and harvested in Feb or March 2017. That obviously is based on normal weather. The Government of India has fixed a target of 9.5 million tons of chickpea for 2017. I don't see, under the present circumstances, I don't see this target being achieved at all. It's an absolutely ambitious target. We could at best, at the very best, under ideal conditions, probably reach something like 8.5 million tons. Even that looks doubtful, but it's possible. It's still possible. There is an outside chance. And from the 8.5 million tons of chickpea, if we were to remove Kabuli, which is between 8 and 10%, that will leave 2017 production of Desi chickpea at about 7.5 million tons for next year. India is obviously betting on above normal rainfall for 2016-17 season. While on this, I want to mention to this house that over the last 2 years, India has been experimenting with BT chickpea and BT pigeon pea, the genetically modified varieties of chickpea and pigeon pea. I know the company that's doing these experiments, and the initial results are absolutely encouraging. GM crops are politically sensitive in India. Therefore, I don't know when the Government of India will give clearance for commercialization of genetically modified pulses. But a whole lot of experiments are taking place across the country, and the results are quite positive. And this could be a game changer. In the event the Government of India decides to commercialize, allow commercialization of chickpea and pigeon pea, that can become a game changer for the world market. Okay. Now, what's the market outlook? I gave production numbers, but we also need to look at the outlook for the market. Those of you who were in Las Vegas last year, 13 months ago, we had the Las Vegas convention in April, will remember that in my presentation I talked about an opening stock of about 700,000 tons. By March 2015, India had an opening stock of chickpea of 700,000 tons. In 2016, there is no opening stock in India. And therefore, India has to completely rely on the new harvest. Now, that's number one. And therefore, I'm expecting absolute tightness in supplies and availability in India. Domestic prices are obviously firm, in spite of the fact that there ought to be harvest pressure, but there is no harvest pressure on prices at all. If anything, prices are going up. Between April 2015 and March 2016, which is India's financial year, and import-export data are maintained on a financial year basis, India's import of chickpea in 2015-16 was 1 million tons. Therefore, you can imagine 1 million ton import was an additionality to our own domestic production. But given a number of issues that the trade is facing because of government intervention, Indian imports have substantially slowed down. India imported all pulses put together something like 2.5 million tons in a period of 4 months between October and January. But now, after January, in Feb and March and April, I'm able to see a substantial slowdown in India's imports because the traders have turned rather apprehensive about government policies and interventions. And therefore, there could possibly be further tightness in the suppliers given the slowing imports into India. I want to project Desi chickpea imports into India for 2016-17. 2015-16, as I said earlier, was 1 million tons. I don't see India importing the same quantity of 1 million tons. My expectation is that India would possibly be importing 30% less, which could be about 700,000 tons. That import of 700,000 tons will still leave the market fairly tightly supplied, and a part of the tightness could potentially be met by more import of yellow pea. Because in India, yellow pea is a close substitute to Desi chickpea. Okay. Exchange rate in India will certainly have an impact. We don't know what the dynamics of the currency markets are going to be. I am not very bullish on the rupee. I'm in fact somewhat bearish on the rupee. And therefore, if the rupee were to turn weaker, that can push the landed cost of pulses up, which can again invite some amount of government intervention. In terms of consumption in other markets, I'm expecting normal consumption in major markets for Desi chickpea. For example, the Middle East, Bangladesh is again a big market. Consumption across the world of Desi chickpea is going to be quite normal in 2016-17. But my sense is the market should not expect the fancy prices of 2015 to prevail again in the second half of 2016. I'm expecting a small price correction given the potential for an increase in production in the following year. And the most important point is La Nina. India faced El Nino conditions in the last 2 years. There is now a forecast that by September there will be La Nina. El Nino induces dry conditions. La Nina is going to bring more rainfall. I would call it substantially above normal rainfall in the whole of South Asia. Above normal rainfall in South Asia is something which is welcome because the earth is bone dry. For 2 years we've had El Nino and drought-like situation. Therefore, a certain amount of above normal rainfall will increase subsoil moisture, will improve the confidence of the growers, and there is the possibility of a rebound in agriculture production overall, and particularly pulses production, with the planting for which will start in June, and the harvest will take place in September. I want to quickly give an Indian outlook for 2016-17. The Kharif is a crop that is planted in June, July, and harvested in September. The production target for Kharif 2016-17 set by the Ministry of Agriculture is 7 million tons. And in 2014 and in 2015, the actual production was only 5.5 million tons. If we have La Nina induced above normal rainfall, my expectation is that Indian pulses production has the potential to rebound. Whether it would reach 7 million tons, the target remains at this point a matter of conjecture. But it could be substantially higher than the 5.5 million tons that we harvested in the last 2 years. It could be 6.5, or it could be between 6.5 and 7 million tons. And the major Kharif harvested crops are pigeon pea and black martpe, which is urad. And therefore, this is something which can potentially have an impact on prices. My one big risk that remains, as always with India, is government intervention. It is something which needs to be factored in. I would think the policymakers in India don't seem to have a clue how to handle the situation. We've had 2 bad years, 2 bad monsoons and 2 bad years of production, and obviously there is a shortage. And that shortage has got to be met through imports. And therefore imports have become inevitable. And imports will continue to remain inevitable into the foreseeable future until there are major investments that flow into pulses production, flow into pulses research, etc. And therefore, most of the delegates that I speak to are very keen to know about India, to know about India's status, and therefore I thought I must focus more and more on India. There is a huge market waiting, but in the short term, in the next season, over the next 6 months, there is a possibility that India's production will rebound, and to that extent, prices could come under downward pressure towards, say, October, November time. Thank you very much. Good luck, and God bless you all. Thank you. I'm now going to invite our friend Peter Wilson to share his thoughts on Australia. Do you have a presentation, or you will speak? Okay.
Hello? There we go.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's well after a fantastic lunch. Is everybody well? Yeah. It wasn't very enthusiastic, was it? I feel a bit like Ona yesterday. Is everybody really well? All right. It's good to see so many people come to the Desi Chickpea session. Obviously, a very, very important part of this conference is the activity that happens in Desi Chickpeas, and I commend Chandrasekhar on a fantastic presentation, which really I can't add much to. Although I will say this time last year we were in Las Vegas. There wasn't many people in the chickpea session in Las Vegas last year. They were all gambling and other. But I think during that particular session I indicated that in my opinion Australia would produce 1 million tonnes of Desi chickpeas. We did better than that. In my opinion, we produced about 1.15 million tonnes harvested in October, November and into December last year. We had pretty good moisture conditions at seeding. We planted into good conditions. We weren't planting deep because the moisture was quite close to the top of the surface. You need to understand a little bit about where Desi chickpeas are produced in Australia. They're produced in largely central New South Wales and then north to the central part of Queensland. And they're sown into deep soils that have good moisture reserves traditionally, and they are produced on stored soil moisture, because in Northern Australia we enjoy subtropical conditions, which means that we're largely growing a winter crop from the benefit of summer rainfall. All right? So last year we had reasonable conditions leading into seeding, which gave me a lot of confidence that farmers would seed. The other thing that drove the acres in last year will be for the same reason as they will go in this year, and that is, as Megan Trainor says in her song, it's all about the base. The base in Australia, as it is in North America and India, is wheat. Right now, Australian farmers do not make money growing wheat. They are making money growing chickpeas. So where they can, they're going to put in pulses en masse. And we've seen the numbers for lentils, which are up in Australia. Faba beans about flat, and some of the other crops will certainly increase, because wheat to an Australian farmer today is dragging his balance sheet down. So he's going to try and plant Desi chickpeas where he can, and he certainly did it last year, and then he produced a really nice crop. The other thing that happened last year, which does not happen on a regular basis in Australia, is we had an extended flowering period, okay? We've started flowering Desi chickpeas in southern Queensland about the second week of August, and they continued flowering until the end of September, in fact, early days October. That extended flowering period developed lots of pods, and we had enough moisture to see that crop come home, which is why our yields were pretty reasonable. So we did produce about 1.15 million tonnes. We fast forward to where we are today. We're basically out of chickpeas. On the current export pace, by the end of next month, we will basically be on vapour in Australia, so we'll have no carry-out in Australia, in my opinion. By the time we get to September, we will be completely scun in terms of Desi chickpeas. Seeding conditions today in Australia could only be described as okay. We probably have had enough moisture and conditions are okay for probably half a crop. We have potential this year to produce 1.6 million tonnes. Okay, then there's a big difference in Australia between potential and reality, and it's a little bit like the way I play golf. I go out, I wear golf shoes, I've got golf sticks, I've got a nice golf bag. And the potential for me to have a great game of golf is really quite powerful until I try and hit that first ball. And then the reality sets in. So in Australia, we need significant precipitation to achieve 1.6 million tonnes. So today, with what we have, we can probably produce a crop between 700 and 900,000 tonnes. But we need substantial rainfall, and we know we're transitioning from El Nino to La Nina. That's what they tell us. But ladies and gentlemen, flooding rains in the middle of July will not help our chickpea area, because we will already be too late. So we need to get rain here in the next couple of weeks, and good rain, and then we get to see some seeding.
Thank you very much. I hope all of us have noted the caution notice that Peter has issued. Thank you very much. May I request Bulbula to share his thoughts on the Ethiopian market, production, exports, what is the outlook for the next season?
Thank you very much. I think the presenter has done a very good job, which I supposed to do anyway, and I'll simply add some data on what the presenter has already said. The average crop for the last 5 years is about 377,000 metric tons. And currently we have not yet get the data, which is normally collected by the Central Statistical Authority or the government body, and not yet released, but the expert estimation is more or less similar to what the presenter has already said, which is around 450,000. I agree with that figure. I don't have any comment on that. And the last 5 years average export volume shows about 58,000 metric ton. You might be surprised when you compare the production and the export volume. The most important we have to know, and you have to know, the Ethiopian situation is that Ethiopia is the second biggest country population-wise, is about 100 million after Nigeria. This means chickpeas pulses as locally consumed too much. If we estimate the marketable surplus, normally the marketable surplus is about 55%. The rest is consumed by the farmers who produce them. Consumed in a sense, they use as a part of food security for their own home consumption and also for seeding. So the rest, which comes to the market, is again shared by the especially urban society. So the estimation shows the last 5-year export volume shows that we only export about 20%, to be exact 21%, the exportable surplus from Ethiopia. That's why you shouldn't be surprised when you see the figure of 450,000 forecast presented by him, and the prediction of 2017 is about 500,000 tons. You shouldn't be surprised. This is normal. The country is very big, and the prediction is right. The only thing you have to think that about 80% of the production is consumed locally, and we are only export about 20%. With regard to the price, I think my friend Bilal knows very well, and the Indian friends know very well. The average, the last 5 years average price was about 645 FOB. I'm talking of.
We'll come to the price a little later.
Okay.
We're now discussing production.
Okay, with the production, this is the point. This is a thing I have to say, and with the hectareage, the average, the current hectareage is about 240,000 hectares already covered, and out of which you predict for 450,000 done. And so far, from July, the Ethiopian calendar is normally June to July. We are back by 7 years. Now we are in 2008 Ethiopian calendar, and in months also our physical year starts from June to July, and from July to March, we have already exported about 30,000 metric ton of chickpea, which went to major countries, Pakistan, India, Sudan, and others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me now invite my young friend from Karachi, Bilal. Your thoughts on Pakistan Desi chickpea production and outlook.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. First of all, I would like to thank you all of the people